Oscar Mojica defeats Paddy Barnes on a 6 round split decision. This was a good 6 round fight. For those who haven't seen it, I would recommend you go and watch it. This was a very, very, very interesting, very entertaining fight. Now, this fight was fought at bantamweight. Paddy Barnes is, a tried and tested flyweight, so he was, fighting a little bit out of his weight zone. He was coming back after a loss. I watched that fight live in Windsor Park when he got knocked out by, what was his name, Rosales. The whole stadium, literally shut down as soon as Barnes got knocked out. Anyway, back onto this fight. Basically, this fight Barnes started out on the back foot purely because he was caught with kind of a jab / hook within the first, I think, 30 seconds. And it obviously broke his nose because the blood started flowing from Paddy Barnes' nose. And he was really out of his depth from then on in. He was dropped in the second round by a body shot. And I don't know why. Barnes winced in pain. The referee called it no knockdown. Now, I can kind of... It was a knockdown, but I can see kind of why maybe the referee kind of mistook it purely because he might have been on the side where he didn't see Barnes wince. He didn't see Barnes was on the verge of going down, and I think Mojica kind of shoved him a little bit. But Barnes went down voluntarily, so it was a knockdown. But from where the referee was standing, I think maybe I could understand why he didn't call it a knockdown. But let's not beat around the bush here. It was a legitimate knockdown. It should have been called. It made no real difference because I think Mojica won that round anyway. And by the end of this fight, I thought the right man won. Barnes did come on strong in the 4th, 5th, and to an extent the 6th. But to be honest with you, I thought the right man won this fight. The judges had 58-58 on all the cards. I think one judge had a 58-50, or it's not 58-58, 58-56 on 2 of the cards, and then one for Barnes, 58-56. No, I thought the right man won. Paddy Barnes, ever since he's turned pro, I've watched Paddy Barnes. And I have felt that Paddy Barnes has been jaded since his first fight. He's been an amateur way too long. He fought in 3 Olympic Games. And this is the problem with Irish fighters. This is one of the reasons why I don't really encourage the amateur system in Ireland for people to stay amateur too long, because they're taught the typical amateur style, which is loads of punches, don't sit down any of the shots. And Paddy Barnes has that kind of amateur style drummed into him. And Andre Ward picked up on it at ringside commentating. He was throwing shots. None of them had any power on it. They were all little pitter-patter punches. He wasn't sitting down in any of his shots. It was the classic amateur style. And he has an amateur style in the pro ring. He's been amateur way too long. And at the end of the day, all his bad amateur habits, they're part and parcel of him now. So I don't think he can get rid of them. So Paddy Barnes, from the moment he's turned pro, he's always had these amateur flaws, so to speak, but he's always had this amateur style. And he's just not been able... It's all he's known for the last God knows how many years. So Paddy Barnes is one of the classic examples of a fighter who stayed amateur too long. I thought he looked jaded in his pro debut, and I've continued to feel that ever since. So Paddy Barnes, to me, he needs to really knuckle down and learn the pro style. And if he can't, he needs to retire, because he's 30 years old now, I think. That's old for a flyweight. Flyweights around about 30 is kind of when you see the decline. I think Paddy Barnes is already on the slide. I think flyweights like Charlie Edwards, Andrew Selby would have a field day with this guy. And I think Paddy Barnes needs to learn the pro style. He needs to sit down in the shots, because there's been a few fights where I've seen him sit down in the shots and he's hurt guys, but he's let them off the hook. He's not done anything. Now, I'm not saying he's a big puncher. No, I don't think he is. But I think he hits hard. I think there's a bit of power there if he could actually learn to actually, sit down and move his body into the shot, which he just doesn't do. He's got the prototypical amateur style. I think he needs to learn the pro style now. And if he can't learn it, if he can't get the grips with it, then he needs to retire, because he is 5-2. That is not a good record for someone who's, only turned pro. Fair enough, one of the losses was a world title fight. I accept that. But Paddy Barnes needs to have a look at himself and needs to think, can he address these issues? If he can't, he's not going to go anywhere. It's as simple as that. So this was a good fight. Paddy Barnes, unfortunate. We need to see where he goes from here. But definitely, I think he needs to change a trainer, and I think he really needs to have a look at himself and decide, is this pro game for him? Because it's all well and good to have 3 Olympic medals. He never won gold, or to be at 3 Olympics. But at the end of the day, you're in the pros now. You need to knuckle down. You need to learn the pro style. There's no use having an amateur style in a professional fight. It's not an amateur fight. It's a professional fight. So those are my thoughts on this. As always, leave yours down below. I'm a bit late with the post-fight review. I'm sorry I didn't get the chance to see this fight last night. I was busy. But leave your thoughts down below. Thank you for dropping by the channel. Hope you enjoyed it. Please hit subscribe. And if you found it useful, please share the video, like it, all that good stuff. And I will talk to you after, as always.